Hello guys, welcome to the next video on Android SQLite Database Tutorial for beginners. In the last video we have seen how we can create a database which is a SQLite database using Android. Now in this video we are going to see how we can insert some data into our table inside that SQLite database. So let's get started. First of all, go to your activity main.xml file and go to the design tab there. In the last video we have created this blank activity, right? So go to that activity and then we are going to drag and drop some text views here and edit texts here so that we can use them to insert some data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag 3 large texts here and 3 plain texts. And now we are going to change these large texts label as the column names of our table. So first is name, second is surname, and third is marks. If you want, you can change the ID names of these text views and edit text also. So for example, this is for text view for name. Now you may be thinking that we have 4 columns in our table. First is ID, second is name, third is surname, and fourth is mark. But we have taken only 3 3 variables here, or 3 text views. Where is ID text field and edit text? If you remember, we have defined ID as auto increment, so it will increment automatically when you insert some data inside your table. So we don't need to add this ID specifically. Okay, now what we are going to do is we are going to take a button and we are going to change the text to add data, and we are going to change the ID to button add, for example. Okay, and that's it for the design part. Now what we are going to do is, if you remember in the last video, we have created a class for handling our database, and the class name was database helper class. So go to that class. This was the code which we have written in the last video, and now just go below, and now we are going to create a new method to insert data. So let's create this method. This will be the public method and it's going to return boolean, and we will name our method as insert data, for example. And we are going to add 3 arguments to this method. First is for name, second is for surname, and third is for marks, right? So let's add. Now once this is done, what we are going to do is, first of all, we are going to create the instance of SQLite database. But if you remember last time, we have added in the constructor of this database helper this extra line so that we can see the database created. Okay, so now it's the time to remove this line, so just cut it from here and the constructor will be like this. Okay, so just remove that extra line and you can paste the same line here, because we are going to use this SQLite database instance in our insert data method. Okay, so just paste it here. Now the second thing which we need here is the instance of a class called content value. So just write content value and the variable name is equal to new content value. Just press Alt Enter to import the required classes. And now we are going to take this content value instance and we are going to put some data into the columns. So just write content value dot put, and it takes two arguments. First is the column name in which you want to insert data, and second is the value itself. So our column name, first column name for name was column 2, you can see here. So column 2 comma the value which we are going to pass. So this is the value which we are going to pass here. Okay, in a same way we will do the same for column 3 or the surname column and the marks column, right? And this will correspond to the value surname and marks value. Okay, now once this is done, we can just insert our data using this db instance, db dot insert, and this takes 3 arguments. First is the table name. So our table name is this variable, so copy this and pass it here. Second is null, and third is our content values, okay, which we have created. Okay, now how can we know that the values are really inserted into the table or not? Okay, so what we can do is this insert method, you can control and just click this method, and you can see here in case of error this method returns -1, and if it's successful this method return the inserted row value. Okay, so if the data is not inserted, this method is going to return -1 to us. So what we can do, we can define long and then result is equal to the result, because this insert returns the result as -1 or the inserted value. And then we can return this if we can check if this value is -1. So if result is equal to -1 is equal to -1, then we are going to return false, else we are going to return true. Now once this method is created, we can just go to our main activity.java file here, and in here we can define 3 edit text variables, because we have created in our design edit text. So we are going to create 3 variables for edit text and 1 variable for our button. Okay, once these 3 variables are created, what we are going to do is inside our onCreate method we are going to cast all these 4 variables, 3 edit text and 1 button. Now once our casting is done, we can use this button add data variable to call some action, right? So what we are going to do, we are going to create a method public void add data, and inside this method we can take this button add variable and call set on click method. So set on click method, and in here new on click listener. Now inside this on click method what we can do is we can call our insert data method here using the instance of this data helper class. So in the last video we have created this instance my data, so just take this dot insert data. Now as an argument for this insert data we need 3 arguments, right? So we can see it needs three arguments. First is name value, second is surname value, and third is mark value, right? So we will go to the main activity, and for this insert data, what we can do is we can take the value from added text. So just take the first added text, which is added name dot get text dot to string. Okay, the second value will be added surname dot get text dot to string, and the third argument will be added mark dot get text dot to string. And don't forget to close this. And once it is successful, what we can do is we can check if it's successful or not by declaring a boolean variable. So bool is inserted is equal to, right? Because this insert data method return boolean value. We have made this method to return boolean value. If the data is inserted, it's going to return true, otherwise false. So if this is true, that means data is inserted, right? So we can just display some message. Otherwise, if it returns false, then we can print the negative message. Now our code for inserting data is done. One thing which is remaining is just call this method inside the onCreate method of your main activity, so that this method will be called whenever we click this add data button. Okay, and now we are going to run our program. So now our app is running, and you can see three added texts. So we are going to add some name, surname, and mark. And once our data is inserted, we can click this add data button, and this is going to show the message if it's inserted or not. So click this, and it says data inserted, right? Now in the last video I've shown you the trick how you can check whether it's really inserted or not using this Android device monitor. I'm not going to show you how you can do it once again, but just follow the trick as we have done in the last video, and you will be able to see the data. So I'm going to go to my database, and I'm going to save this database to my local PC. And now I can see this database using the SQLite manager as I have shown you in the last video. And now you can see this data is inserted in our database, right? So in this way you can insert data into your database using Android. I hope you have enjoyed this video. In the next video, we are going to see how we can display this data, because it's not convenient to go every time to the database and see it in the SQLite manager. So we are going to create some code to display the data using some button. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please rate, comment, and subscribe, and bye for now.